These are the top 10 formations to dominate the weekend. We're talking FUT Champs. This video is gonna bring the sweat. If you found it helpful, make sure to drop some love. If you're new, subscriptions, run those things up. I'd love to have your opinion in the comments section. Elephant in the room has to be addressed. There are officially 11 formations that have been banned from FC Pro. All 5 at the back and 3 at the back formations are officially out of the picture. But that does not mean that I don't want to provide a quick overview, because you will still see them throughout the weekend league. But they have been reduced. And if you see the shades on late at night, hashtag organics. If you know, then you know. 5-2-1-2 has been terrorizing throughout the years. Those wingbacks overlap, but you still have the central presence. 5-2-2-1, not nearly as deadly in my personal opinion. 5-2-3, I run into this every once in a while when I'm chasing a game and my opposition is parking. They've gone full bus driver. The same can be said for the 5-3-2. And last of the 5 at the backs, we have the 5-4-1. 3-1-4-2. I don't have a track record using this formation. However, 3-4-1-2, we go way back. A lot of offense, pushing an agenda, tiki-taka, triangle up front. You know the vibes. 3-4-2-1, a little bit of a different final offensive approach, and you could pin them in because you had double the wingers. Those center forwards are really a right wing and a left wing. 3-4-3 has always been awful. I will stand by that. 3-5-2. Classic throughout the community. Sad to see this leave. That rounds out the 11 formations that have been banned, and it also makes it where a third of the formations we're not even going to discuss in terms of potentially being in the top 10. Even though the majority of players or consumers are not looking to be professional players, a ban has been issued. Instead of an honorable mentions, I put together 3 formations that are interesting, maybe even more so situational. This means I may not love them for 90 minutes, but I understand their purpose. Starting with the 4-1-4-1, where you have that triangle of midfielders led by the most holding and deep lying center defensive midfielder who should organize that 5-piece in the middle of the pitch. Not a starting formation, but can be used as a finishing formation. Has the width for the outlets. Nearly making it into my top 10, and I have a personal preference and appreciation for the 4-3-3-5, the false 9. Plenty of interchangeability. You have that width of a 4-3-3. I just don't believe the community is standing by the false 9 this year. I see people on Twitter or on social media making a case or an argument for this formation, but when I play through the weekend, I'm in upper division rivals, I'm grinding through top players, I just don't see it being included. That's a reality. And last of the interesting formations, and a formation that I felt I would never talk about with any level of positive affirmation, usability, moments, execution, the 4-5-1. It looks pretty on paper, but it never correlated or corresponded in any previous installment. But this year, if you're chasing a game, in fact, let me throw some tactics that might help you out. Airborne, a viewer of the channel and the live stream, these are his tactics. Again, you got to be chasing a game. Everyone's staying forward, getting in behind, aggressive interceptions. It disrupts, it changes the pace, and it can be used in that manner to overwhelm and not allow your opponent to get out of their own half. And it makes sense. Look at how the players are set up. It reminds me of the Mighty Ducks, the Flying V. If you have not seen those flicks, it is worth your time. Absolute classics. At number 10, we have the 4-3-3-2. And the way that I've decided to go about this, maybe a split screen, a few different pros or takeaways, and then I want to showcase a squad. I'm going to do that for every single formation. And it's weighted. You have support. It does not feel flat. You need that. Full disclaimer, plenty of these teams will have similar players, but the talking points will be different. I'm just going off of what I've got in the club at the moment. And the 4-3-3, the collaboration between the fullbacks and the wingers has to be strong, which means you need fullbacks that can pass, wingers that can get in behind, that can take players on. And whatever striker I'm using, I need someone who has enough versatility and size to potentially play alone, because you're not always going to have the support. Balotelli's numbers are ridiculous. Side note, 20 games played, 29 goals, 3 assists. We're not passing the ball, but we are scoring for fun. At number 9, and frankly, I didn't think we'd be here, but the 4-2-4 is making an appearance. It's for the YOLO friends. You're going to push forward like you've never pushed forward before. Better support than expected. That would always be a major critique. It was all or nothing. Somehow, there's better balance, and it deals with the tactics. This video would be an hour if I went over tactical approaches and instructions for every single formation. If you want that, like the video. Talk to me in the comments. Also, put your tactics. Maybe I'll include some of those. In this formation, because we're still focusing on offense, this front four is going to need to be a dangerous grouping. Whether that's premium meta players or even adding in some size, through ball, players that can win lobs, knockdowns, crosses, because you're going to have chances for those types of scenarios. And if you're playing this with success rates, you might have to play the percentages in your favor where you are constantly going forward. And then both holding mids need to be well balanced. 80s across the board, 80s across the board. I've also seen an approach where you go full on defensive midfielders and they almost sit on top of the back line, and you let your front four figure out the offense. At number 8, I have the 4-3-3-4. The attacking variation might be a bit of a spoiler, but this is my favorite 4-3-3 variation. And it is offensive. It's going to press you, can pin the defense. Most aggressive of the 4-3-3s, dynamic with the attacks, and you have overlapping potential. In particular, with this formation, the center attacking mid is going to orchestrate everything. So this should be one of, if not your best players. He's going to make this run, and there's going to have to be a solid exchange with the striker. Again, I would lean on someone who at least gives you an aerial presence if needed. Holland as an acrobat. Even the baseline gold. 68 games played, 58 goals, 18 assists. That's a great return of investment. And he would fit into a 4-3-3, the turn and the burn. At number 7, we have the 4-3-1-2. We're going narrow, compact. It's a draft 101 formation. I always look at this formation and think you're going to rush your opposition. Be ready to activate a counter press or an instant press when you lose the ball every single time. And often players are told to get into the box for the cross, so it almost has them running forward constantly. I'm giving out some helpers. To give you an idea, both fullbacks need to be able to dribble, be able to pass. They're often going to be used even on overlap to give you some additional width. The midfield's still going forward. I like a holding mid as my central midfielder if I'm playing this formation, and then the cam is going to be that guy. You got a prime piece of talent. He will make this show run smoothly, or it is going to be as clunky and ratchet as you could imagine. And I'm not talking about Ratchet and Clank. I guess I could be. Fantastic game on a side note. At number 6, and perhaps the biggest surprise, brand new formation, 4-2-1-3. And I used this for nearly a month. A lot of games, a lot of experience, a lot of repetition. It shifts the pace of the game, which gave me more time on the ball. It was almost my preferred formation that had additional width and felt as if it had certain foundational elements of even a 4-3-3. And at the end of the day, I controlled matches. Did I mention it shares in some similarities to a 4-3-3? And I'll tell you, off rip, your two wingers are going to have to be fantastic. Otherwise, they won't win the matchups, and it's easy to get them isolated, or they're buying time for some of the support runners, especially if you've gone with more classic holding mids in those defensive midfield roles. Striker, as per usual, has to be able to do something in the air and needs to be able to turn a defender. This is why I struggle with some of these big body types that don't have enough pace to put pressure. I need the chance that I can beat you with a dummy run or a through ball or over the top on a release. And the cam's going to have space to work with. Better believe it. At number 5, we have the 4-1-2-1-2, the second variation. And finally, it's made its resurgence this year. It's been tough. Didn't have the same level of positivity after that initial patch, and you couldn't ping pong the ball. And the combined enjoyability and quick passing prowess that this formation offers, it's a beautiful thing. But I will say this, if you struggle with quick passing, tiki-taka, or you struggle with through balls, I don't believe this formation will be high on your list, respectfully. I also would recommend in this formation to have different looks between your center midfielders. You have more flexibility to either go with defensive mids, balanced mids, or even having more attacking players partially in your midfield mix. They can do a little chase back, and then offensively they give you better outlets, but that front three, you better have some pace. You need some burners. And again, the cam centrally located, the connector. He needs quick feet, responsiveness, and the vision. Dime dropping capability. At number 4, the 4-2-2-2, and a formation that frustrates me every single time. It's a defensive wheelhouse. It crushes hopes, it crushes dreams. Between the counters and the deep outlets, you might have a lot of the ball and end up losing this game by multiple goals. It's been an experience I'm familiar with going up against the 4-2-2 and even using the 4-2-2. A regular combination, the holding mids are true holding mids, which again makes this just unstoppable to get through them. Big body types. Sometimes you get a chaser with the likes of a Conte or a Makaleli, and then you have a big center defensive mid next to him. But frequently I'm dealing with the Vieiras and the Ruud Hullets or the Lothar Madhouse. It's not an easy task. It's worth mentioning both the center attacking mids are going to feel and be more or less like wingers, and you're going to have more space and time to take on players. So make sure you get some dribblers, preferably with the R1 trigger, and then they can set up the strikers. The two strikers can play off each other. A lot of striker to striker through ball and interchangeability in this formation in particular. And outlets on deck. They just come out of the woodworks. At number 3, another fan favorite for yours truly, the 4-4-2. A lot of width, which creates options. You have versatility. And then similar to the 4-2-2, the two strikers, they're in demand. They correspond, they correlate. As long as they're cohesive and there's synergy, there will be opportunity. You even have some defensive pressure potential as well. The biggest key to success in this formation, whether you love it or you hate it, it's going to be your two midfielders. These guys have to be aligned and cannot over pursue. If they over pursue or they get caught out of position, you end up being flat and your opponent is going to burst through your midfield. You're going to concede a lot of goals. It's going to be an unfortunate situation and scenario. I don't even want to stress too much about the wings or the strikers. You'll figure that out. But if you do not master that partnership between the two center midfielders, your review on this formation will be completely different. Those guys have to be aligned perfectly. At number 2, we have the 4-2-3-1. I've always coined this the starter formation. Anytime a new title is released, start here and work from the 4-2-3-1. It will keep you in matches, even if you have a team that's not as expensive. The support is unbelievable. It's a practical formation. The positioning always makes sense. It aligns. It is rather defensive, and you might struggle a little bit offensively. Just putting that out there. If you've never played this formation, the 3 center attacking mids, the 2 out wide are actually going to feel like wingers. Therefore, they're going to need to be fast. If you do not have fast outside attacking midfielders, I don't know if you can play this formation at a high level. With that being said, your central center attacking midfielder could be a specialist who could just provide, doesn't necessarily need or rely on the burner. He can do his job with the proper personnel in motion. And then defensively, as I already mentioned, the support, the triangles, the chase back, it's just natural in this formation. And at number 1, and you've probably guessed it at this point, the 4-3-2-1, it's built for the meta this year. Most abusive tactically, and the game will carry you to the promised land if you set it up properly. From the chase back to the way that players position themselves, to the outlets, to the spacing. It's not my favorite formation, but if we're just looking at wins, how can I not have this as a front runner in the conversation? Off rip, if you play this formation, both these center forwards are going to get opportunities for finesse shots and trivelas on a regular basis. General rule of thumb is between the 3 midfielders, one of them should be rather attacking and he can push into the attack and then do some chase back duty on the defensive end. The same can be said if we started breaking down tactics with some of the fullbacks and one being an overlap player, the other one sitting deeper. Again, if you want that video, I'll make that video. It's just a lot to digest, but I'm happy to put it out there with an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. Those are my top 10 formations to get better results throughout the weekend league. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any questions, I will get back to all of you. And if you want another video going over the tactics and the breakdowns and all the intricacies, even though I have done individual videos on the second channel, just like it, let me know, or head on over to the second channel and you can get those individual analysis and reports. I appreciate you, and I have a lot more content coming out ASAP.